Okay, it's time for us to begin. Thank you for being here, by the way. And so this evening, we're talking about laborers in the vineyard. It's more of an interesting study than I ever thought it would be as I prepared for this class. So we'll see what y'all think. There's some curveballs, in my opinion, that we need to look at. All right, so let me slide that down just a little bit. We saw in our previous studies, we saw an unforgiving spirit on Sunday has no place in the hearts of those who make up the kingdom of heaven. And the unmerciful servant, and then our next parable identifies another attitude of the heart. And we talked about the kingdom itself for a few lessons, and now we're talking about the subjects of the kingdom. Another attitude of the heart that has no place in the kingdom, the laborers in the vineyard, found in Matthew 20 and 6, Matthew chapter 20. You know what? And I didn't bring my Bible up here. Where is it? Slacker. That's right. You got it. Yeah. So me and Larry, we can always just say it's old age. Oh, we're. Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be a problem, I can see. All right, Matthew 20. Thank you, Matt. I told Matt right before I came up here, you got to watch us old people. And then he took care of me. He walked halfway down the aisle with it. All right, Matthew 20, the first 16 verses. Let's look at that. I'm reading from the New American Standard, but my quotes on the screen are from the New King James. All right. For the kingdom of heaven is like. That's familiar. That's in every one of them, isn't it? Just about. A landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius for the day, he sent them into his vineyard. And verse 3, and then he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to those he said, you too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I'll give you. And so they went. And again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, 2 more times, and did the same thing. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing, and he said to them, why have you been standing here all day long? And they said, because no one hired us. And he said to them, you too go into the vineyard. And when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last group back to the first group. So the last got their money before the ones that had been working all day. Verse 9, and when those hired about the 11th hour came, each one received a denarius. And when those hired first came, they thought that they would receive more, and they also received each one a denarius. And when they received it, they grumbled at the landowner, saying, these last men have worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden and the scorching heat of the day. Verse 13, but he answered and said to them, friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Wasn't that our deal? Verse 14, take what is yours and go your way, but I wish to give to this last man the same as you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with what is my own? Or is your eye envious because I'm generous? Thus the last shall be first, and the first last. And so on the surface, it looks pretty straightforward, but there's some complications that y'all help me through as hopefully as we look at this. And we've got a lot of slides, so we may need to just kind of push through it. The meaning of this parable has challenged many, and explanations have been varied, and while admittedly difficult, the main point can be determined with a fair degree of certainty, especially if we've been by taking into consideration some related scriptures. The conversation with the rich young ruler, for example, in Matthew 19, 16 through 22. We won't read that, but Jesus had been approached by this man with a question concerning eternal life. You remember that one, right? And in the course of the conversation, Jesus challenged him to give up all and follow him. It appears that possibly they're inviting him to maybe to be an apostle, certainly a disciple. The man went away sorrowful, for unable to accept the challenge because he had great riches, right? And in the discussion with the disciples in Matthew 19, verses 23 through 26, Jesus used the opportunity to teach how difficult it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. That looks good. And after his discussion with the rich young ruler, this causes disciples to wonder then who could be saved. This is concerning them. Jesus' response is, with God all things are possible. And then the question raised by Peter in Matthew 19 and verse 27, let me look at that. Matthew 19, verse 27, Peter answered and said to him, "Behold, we have left everything and followed you. What then will there be for us?" Unlike the rich young man, Peter and the other disciples had accepted the challenge to give up all and follow Jesus, right? So Peter asked, what are we going to get out of this deal? What's our cut? Those are obviously my words, but in verse 27, I'll read it again. Peter answered and said to him, "Behold, we have left everything and followed you. What then will be for us?" Interesting. Yeah? There's some twists and turns here. So it appears that Peter's wanting to know if the rich can be saved, though barely, and with the help of God, what more will those receive who've given up all to follow Christ, who have went into the deep end of the pool, as we sometimes say, who have committed fully? What's in it for us? Peter's question could be viewed as coming from a commercial or kind of a mercenary standpoint, having some sort of personal profit as a chief aim. That doesn't sound like Peter, but motivated solely by desire for personal gain. Peter's motive, can you see that one? Yep. Peter's motive may have been pure, though, in which case Jesus' complete answer may have been designed as a preemptive strike against any improper motives for becoming a disciple and leaving all to follow him. And so the reply given by Jesus in Matthew 19, verses 28 through 30, let's look at that. Right after Peter says, "Well, what's in it for me? What's in it for us, the ones who have left everything?" In 28, Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you that you who have followed me in the generation when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne, you also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." In verse 29, and everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or fathers or mothers or children or farms for my name's sake shall receive many times as much and shall inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. So that's Jesus' answer. So specifically, in the regeneration, they'll be judging the 12 tribes of Israel. What is this promise about? Promise is either to their role as apostles in the gospel age following Pentecost, Matthew 16, verse 19, or a special role following the return of Christ when he comes to judge the world, Matthew 25, 31 and following. It's a little confusing to me, to tell you the truth. So generally to all disciples, in Matthew 19, verse 29, that we read, in this life 100-fold houses, brothers and sisters, in the age to come everlasting life, Mark 10, verse 29 and 30, those who give up all will receive enough in return. And so, 19 verse 29, yeah, I did read that. And so, as we contemplate this laborers in the vineyard, and the question from Peter, what do we get out of it? What are we going to receive? And then Jesus answers him in those verses there, 28, 29, and 30, that some of their roles. It's interesting that their roles as apostles in judging the 12 tribes of Israel is very, very interesting. Let's look some more at that in just a minute. But then a warning in Matthew 19 and verse 30, but many who are first will be last and the last first, a rather cryptic statement by Jesus there. And then he repeated it over in Matthew 20 and verse 16, kind of after this whole parable of the vineyard. So that's going to play into the scenario. Since this warning both precedes and follows the parable we're studying, it seems evident that the parable was told to explain the warning it would follow, I think. And since the warning was first given in response to Peter's question, what are we going to get? Any explanation of the parable should be based upon setting that precedent is telling that was before of the telling. And so Peter's question kind of launches this whole parable of the vineyard, the workers in the vineyard. All right. The parable summarized. Early in the morning, the landowner hires the laborers to work for an agreed upon wage. Matthew 20, verses 1 and 2, which we read all this. We're just reviewing it. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Now, when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into the vineyard for them to work early in the morning. So these, it might have been daylight or shortly thereafter. All right. Later, a different hour of the day, he finds more and hires them also for a fair but unspecified wage. Matthew 20, verses 3 through 7 doesn't really promise them a denarius. And when he went out about the third hour and saw the others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right, I'll give you. Not a specific amount. So they went, again, he went about the 6th and the 9th hour and did likewise. And when about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing idle, he said, why have you been standing here idle all day? The day was almost over. And they said to him, because no one hired us. We're waiting, no one hired us. And he said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you'll receive. Well, they went and trusted him, right? The last several groups trusted him that whatever is right he'll get. And at the end of the day, they're all paid equally, which irritates those who had worked all day. Matthew 20, verses 8 through 12. They had worked all day in the hot sun, and they had one would assume they worked industriously and did a good job. I think that's a given. They all did a good job, but they're not happy because these latecomers all day long, but especially these latecomers, got the same amount of same pay, same benefit. So when the evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed, maybe like Peter, we're going to get a little extra because we were there in the hot sun all day long and did our good job. Everybody did a good job, but we were there all day. The boss is going to take care of us. We're going to get extra. But they likewise received a denarius that these people had been promised. They agreed to work all day for a denarius. And when they had received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, these last men have worked only 1 hour. I mean, really? And you made them equal to us who have borne the burden in the heat of the day. Now, in human wisdom, that makes sense, doesn't it? My goodness sakes, we worked out here 11 and a half hours. These guys worked an hour, and the sun was almost down, so they're hardly sweating. And we were here early and through the midday heat and late and and you gave us the same amount? That's not right. That's not fair. All right. The landowner responds to the complainers. Now, obviously you realize that the workers are Christians. Workers in the vineyard are Christians, and the landowner is God, right? So keep that in the back of your mind here too. Are we going to chastise God when He gives us our reward? I hope not. The landowner responds, I treated you fairly, he tells these grumbling Christians, not Christians, but vineyard workers. I treated you fairly and you received according to our agreement. Matthew 20, verses 13 and 14. But he answered and said to one of them, Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Mm-hmm. Take what is yours and go your way. But I wish to give you this last man the same as you. I wish to give it to him. It's my choice. It's my decision, not yours. We had an agreement. Right? And so I wish to pay the others the same, which we just read at the close of that verse. So as we think about this, and we know the parallels is to the kingdom of heaven and workers in the kingdom being Christians and God, we come back to Peter's question. We have to come back to that over and over and over. What are we going to get? Peter said. Whoa, what are we going to get? So keep that in your mind. Let's see here. Do I have not the right? In Matthew 20, verse 15. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own? Are you telling me how to run my business? Are you telling me what to do with my money? Right? Are you envious because I'm gracious? Or is your eye evil? And now, or is your eye envious, as the New American Standard says? The New King James says, is your eye evil because I'm generous? Do you not want me to be generous? And so they're kind of caught in the crosshairs here, aren't they? Because they agreed on the denarius for a hot day's work. And these latecomers, the master, he said, I've just decided I'm going to give everybody the same. And even the ones who were standing on the street corner still waiting on somebody to hire them, he said, what are you doing out here this late in the afternoon? Nobody hired us. He said, well, I'll hire you, and I'll pay you. I'll make it right. I'll pay you. You'll be okay with what I give you. Jesus concludes. This is Jesus talking, right? By repeating the warning in Matthew 20 and verse 16. So the last will be first, and the first last. And so when he told his foreman to bring them in for their money, he said, bring the last first, and the first bring last. Now, I don't know if Jesus had as he was discussing this, making up this parable, delivering this parable, I should say, if he thought about Peter, but the last will be first. He bring the last ones in first, so that why? Well, I mean, you bring them in any way you want to bring them in, but the rest of them we're going to be able to see. The ones who've been there an hour get their denarius, and they've been there, 2 hours or 3 hours get their denarius, and 4 hours and 5 hours get their denarius. These guys have been there 11 hours. They're in their minds, we're going to get extra because we worked hardest, and I don't think that's disputable. We worked hardest and longest for the master. And we get the same as some Johnny-come-lately? Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
who have been in the kingdom 50 years.
Yep.
The bottom line is, whether you're first into heaven, I'll gladly be last as long as I can go to heaven.
Yep.
And whether I'm young or whether I'm old, regardless of what I've done, the goal is to go to heaven. Don't worry about my position. Just let me reach it.
That's I think you got it. So I guess we can end the class now because you you broke the code. No, but thank you. Yeah, he don't have that hair thing going like you do, Bill. Yep, yep. There you go. Oh my. All right. So he repeats that warning in the 16th verse. Thus the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. And he brought the last in first. Yes, sir, Gene. Yep. Yep.
So the last ones will get the same as the first. There's nothing better he could give these first workers.
Yep. Exactly. And I mean that's a great perspective. I don't have that in my notes that the 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 payment of a denarius represents the best payment anyone could get, and that's a valid point and a great point. That's why I like the comments because it just didn't occur to me that they were getting the not only a fair wage but they were getting the best that could be offered, and that's great. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's in it for us? We left everything. We family maybe, and certainly friends who were because they were all Jews, right? So they left the Jewish faith. They lost all their friends. They lost the connection to the synagogue. They were ejected from the synagogue more than likely, and if not early, then later on they certainly were. And so the synagogue is where people did business with people in the synagogue, and if they were fishermen, nobody wanted to buy their fish because they were expelled from the synagogue, and all. So they did make a sacrifice. It's not that they didn't; they did. And Peter wants to know, look, Jesus, we there's a song. I wish I just had to. I've given so much for thee. Whatever that song is, there's a song about, oh, I've done so much for you. I've done so much for you. I can't remember the name of it. I just know that we sang it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Because they have no guardrails on their morals and the things and the people that they associate with, and so they're just bouncing over, all the guardrails that the Christians have. We have guardrails. We put up guardrails of we don't associate with people who are doing all those kind of things, and we give those up even if they're had been close friends. If they won't give some of that stuff up, we can't be friends with them anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It, it's just a better life on this earth. And of course, then as several have commented, it's the reward of heaven is the best reward you could ever have. And so to grumble about it or want extra, a la Peter, it's interesting that Peter, he wasn't thinking, I think. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
but I think it fits well. Years ago, I baptized a 80 early 80s lady. In that same period of time, baptized a young girl about 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The 81-year-old passed away in less than 6 months. That 10-year-old was going to school at Florida College,
Uh-huh.
but they both were going to receive the same reward.
That's right. Yeah. And so, but that was Peter's question. Wait a minute. We're here first, and then Jesus tells this parable, and at the end he brings the last in first, and lets those the first lets them wait to see that everybody gets the same, right? And the comment that it was the best that could have been given, it makes it all understand better. Yes, sir.
Another valuable lesson we can get from these verses is the superiority of God's thinking and reasoning over man's thinking and reasoning. We told that in different places in the Bible. But the way man thinks, we would think, yeah, they should get more. But God doesn't think that way. If we do what he says, we're going to get the same reward.
Because it's the best reward we could ever get. There is nothing better. There is no more. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Other thought is that Peter, at this point, along with the other disciples, are still very uneducated and still really don't understand at all. Until the Holy Spirit descends on them after Jesus is risen, they still really don't have a clue.
Yeah, and that's being fair to Peter, and that's exactly right. Is that after the Holy Spirit and reveals all to them and so forth, that they understand the depth and the width and all of those things, for sure, to be sure. Yep. But still, yet he had spent a fair amount of time with Jesus, and Jesus was still going through some of these things with them, trying to get them up. I'll use the term up to speed, because he's going to be gone in not too distant future here, right? Yes.
Really happy because it doesn't matter how long or how short we work. We're all striving for that same goal, that same reward of heaven, and we should be rejoicing and being happy. Plus, it's like not all of us can do the same thing. You have other people doing multiple things of works, and other people can do probably little, or it's just a varying amount of work that people can do, and we're all striving for that same place. We're all striving for the same thing, and it's like it shouldn't be like, oh, we've been working longer, we should get a better reward. No, we're getting heaven. There's nothing greater than that.
So you brought up talents. We have different talents, and so everybody can't necessarily do the same thing. And so there's another, just very quick uh, thing that we need to consider, which I had not, is that everybody can't do the same thing. That there are song leaders, and then there are people who, yeah, but we love you, but you're not a song leader, kind of thing. There are people who but you can do other things, right? There's something you can do, right? We sing songs about the you know that you can do something in God's kingdom, and it counts, even if you just do a little bit, like the 11th hour ones. It counts, and it counts equally towards the goal of heaven. And it's not something to be ashamed of, or for other people to look down upon, because you do what you can do, and if you do that, then you've given 100%. If you do what you can do, and you're not responsible for what you can't do, or you're not responsible for nobody hiring you till the 11th hour, when the master said, hey, what are y'all just still doing standing around here? It's afternoon. They said, well, nobody hired us. He said, well, come on. You can get in the back of the truck. Well, I'll hire you, kind of thing. And so that's what the kingdom of heaven is like. Because he began this one like many others. The kingdom of heaven is like, and the master, even at the 11th hour of the day, I'm assuming they might probably work 12 hours a day. He hired them for the same wage, and it's like the kingdom of heaven, and everybody gets heaven that is faithful and does what they can do. If you can do something, you're responsible for doing it. If you can't do something, you're not responsible for doing it. For those people that in the metaphor learned the gospel at the 11th hour of their life, you're not responsible for the other 11 hours or 12 hours or whatever. Yes, sir. Uh, I'll be the most grateful person if yep.
Well, as Christians, all we should be worried about is the commitment and the work, because we're not guaranteed the hours.
That's right.
We don't know how many hours we're going to work in the kingdom.
That's another great point. Is that it's not about the hours. And Peter thought it was, or at least this point in his life, he thought it was. And wait a minute, what are we going to get? And the thing is, you get heaven, but the 11th hour people get heaven. Yep, and that's the master's decision, not yours, right? That's man's thinking, exactly. Yep. All right, so I think we've about arrived at the conclusion, but I'm going to talk for another 10 minutes just because. Many and varied have been the interpretations of this parable. Example one, and there are many more examples of this. The various bands of workers are the Old Testament saints. Those called at the 11th hour are the apostles. Okay, that's one thing. The workers first called are the Jews, and those called last are the Gentiles. The parable represents the whole gospel age up to Christ's return, and the workers are groups saved at various periods in time. People get this stuff. It refers to different periods of a person's life in which they may respond to the Lord, some responding early and others later in their life. All right. Okay. All right. Since this parable is in response to Peter's question, what do we get about this? We've left everything. And it's been hard. What are we going to get? Here's another suggestion. That the first workers represent the apostles and others like them who are called by Christ to the gospel early in life and who therefore may labor long and hard in the vineyard, in the hot sun, in the heat of the battle, as it were. And the other workers represent those who are called by Christ via the gospel at various times, maybe later in life. I think that we've all kind of arrived at that. Some of who are late in life and who did not have the opportunity to do as much for the Lord, but they did what they could. By all, it doesn't say anything different that those 11th hours they worked hard for their hour. So they weren't slackers. We're not talking about that. And so, if you scratch your nose, I may call on you because I don't want to miss anybody. In light of this interpretation, what I think is where we've kind of arrived at, the main point of the parable would be, what everyone receives will be more than fair. Did you not agree with me? The master said, for denarius. Did you not agree that if you're faithful to me and did what you could, you go to heaven? Did you not agree? Yeah, we did. No one has the right to question the generosity of the Lord. Because, and I think we talked about this Sunday. What do we deserve? Peter wanted to kind of know what we deserve. What do we deserve? What does mankind deserve? Punishment. A devil's hell is what we. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It didn't say just to young people. Excellent point. And so, as we as we look back at Peter, kind of questioning the generosity of the Lord, because they were the early ones. They were the ones who were really facing some serious personal injury. Um, and so no one has the right to question the generosity. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish in my own things, the Master says? Well, sure it is. God is, God. God is the master. God can do what God wants to do. And we don't have any right to say anything about that. Those who may serve long and hard should not be envious if others receive the same reward. Is your eye evil? The master asked those ones that have worked all 12 hours. Is your eye evil because I'm good and generous? Yeah, their eye was a little evil. They were put out, to say the least. They grumbled. I don't think there's going to be any grumblers in heaven, by the way. Not a one. So let's just get that out of if that's in our mind. Therefore, no one should serve the Lord with a commercial or mercenary spirit. I'm going to work real hard for the Lord, and I'm going to get extra. I'm going to get a golden chair or whatever your mind might think about. No. The very danger Peter was close to falling into by the question he raised, a danger which we're all susceptible, this mercenary spirit. I've had a preacher, Church of Christ preacher, by the way, conservative Church of Christ preacher, say one time that I've done my work in small congregations that couldn't afford to pay me, and I had to beg for support for me and my family. And now I've been there. I've done this so many years. I've got so much experience now that I deserve a larger congregation that can pay me more money. Does that ring odd to you, to anyone else? That rang odd to me. I'm going, what? Oh, okay. So you now it's like I need a promotion. I need more from God. Now, in this country, God has blessed us. We got a lot, and He was in this country, and so that seemed odd to me that was the way He was looking at it. I think that's a one example I know of personally of a mercenary kind of spirit. Yes, ma'am.
You're not serving the Lord. You can't serve the Lord with a commercial or mercenary spirit. So no one should, no one can.
No one can. Good point. Yep. And so you may think you're serving the Lord. There's a lot of people in this world, especially in this country, who think they're serving the Lord in denominations, but they're not. To your point, right? And so if you claim to be in the Lord's church, but you have a mercenary spirit, you've already lost that battle, and there is no I deserve more because I have 20 years experience now serving the Lord, so I should get a promotion and more money was the point.
None of us deserve more. None of us can earn heaven. It's a gift, no matter how much we do.
Because we deserve a devil's hell. That's why, I tell some people, I want justice. No, not me. I don't want justice. I want mercy. Yeah. Great question. Great comments. Thank you so much. All right, we're winding it down here. We've got about 5 minutes to go. And so perhaps we should stress that the parable is not saying that those who purposely put off obeying Christ until the last moment can be saved. If that were the point, the parable would have been worded differently. Notice that those who respond late at the late hour of the day had not been working because no one hired us. They didn't know that there was jobs available down at the vineyard around the corner, right? And they accepted the offer as soon as they heard it, though late in the day. They were not people who turned down many opportunities and said, "I don't want to have anything to do with God," and so forth. I'm not really talking about that. Whether one can be saved at the last moment after lifelong overt rejection of the gospel is another question. And who gets to decide that? The Lord. Yeah. And so we can speculate on it, but however, notice what is said of those who remain in condition of rejecting the gospel. And in Acts 13, verse 46, then Paul and Barnabas grew bold and said, "It was necessary that the word of God should be spoken to you first, but since you reject it, Jews, and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life by rejecting it, behold, we turn to the Gentiles." They went away, and they are storing up for themselves wrath in the day of wrath. Romans 2 and verse 4 through 11. And so, as we conclude here, I think that when we are called by the gospel to obey Christ, we should respond. Well, we will respond one way or the other, but we should respond positively. Others may not come to know the gospel until late in life. As laborers in the vineyard, which is the kingdom, we should work diligently in whatever time we may have left, whether that's all day in the hot sun for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, or if that's, we just have a few months or a few short years after we learn about God and accept His grace. As laborers in the vineyard, we should work diligently whatever time we may have left, whether it's 50 years or 5 years or 1 year or whatever. We may be blessed to offer full life service to the Lord, or we may only have a short time. We've had people tell examples of both of those. We should do whatever we can without a commercial or mercenary spirit. Do I get more because I gave more, or worked harder, or could do more, have more talents? No. It's heaven. It's the best that you could ever be given. With this parable, we'll learn more about those in the kingdom of heaven. Just as the parable of the unmerciful servant teaches us there is no place in the kingdom for an unforgiving spirit, so the parable of the laborers in the vineyard teaches us there's no room in the kingdom of heaven for those with either a mercenary spirit or an envious spirit. Well, he did the same thing as me, and he was 70 years old when he obeyed the gospel, and he only lived 5 more years. No, that's that. If we're thinking that way, then Linda said, you're not a Christian anyway. What is our attitude to our service to Christ? One of gratitude or commercialism? And it should be gratitude. There's only one answer to that, and that's not commercialism, but gratitude to God that He would even open up His kingdom to me. After all that I've done, after all that I've been, and He still loves me enough to offer me a way to heaven. And that's the end. Okay, next 2 lessons, Sunday and Wednesday, the 2 sons, Matthew 21, and the wicked vine dressers, and also Matthew 21. So we'll be looking at those. That'll be, we're 12 lessons into this thing. Okay, thank you so much.